All right, very good. Bem, pessoal, sejam todos muito bem-vindos aí, sejam todos bem-vindos e bem-vindas à nossa live. A gente já está aqui, então, com vocês, já tivemos, inclusive, um comentário aqui do Rubens. Vou pedir aqui um favorzinho, na verdade, dizer para a gente aí se vocês estão escutando, tá? If you guys are listening, right? If you can hear us here. Can you say something, Regina, just to check?
Hi, hello, bom dia.
Oh, all right, very good. So, if you could be so kind to send on the chat, right? If you guys are listening and if it's okay, we have already 8 people watching here with us, and we have a comment. A gente já tem um comentário aqui do Rubens, right? E aí, galera, como é que vai ser aqui o nosso papo hoje? A gente vai conversar então com a Regina, que ela é uma job recruiter, né? Ela recruta aí desenvolvedores de software brasileiros. Ela já está acostumada com o mercado brasileiro, isso é um ponto muito interessante aqui. E ela, na verdade, está aqui para falar um pouquinho sobre o mercado europeu e o mercado também americano. Ela tem larga experiência em, né, ajudar brasileiros a conseguir seu emprego lá fora, e a gente vai responder várias perguntas aqui de vocês, ok? Então, para você que já está aqui assistindo, seja muito bem-vindo, muito bem-vinda. Você que está assistindo essa live gravada também, welcome, right? E a gente queria, na verdade, aqui começar com a pergunta do Rubens, tá? Só por enquanto a galera vai chegando. Inclusive, pessoal, vai deixando aí o seu bom dia, o seu de onde você fala, ok? E vamos lá, ok? So we're gonna start here, Regina, with the question from Rubens, right? He just sent here. He said, good morning. I would like to know about the chances of a dev junior. He's in a transition of career, and he's trying his first opportunity as a backend junior. He didn't mention where, right? But he said outside of Brazil, abroad, you know? So what can you say? What tips can you give him? So he's like a junior, he's just beginning. And he's going to backend, right? What can you tell him?
Hola, Rubens. I see that you also wrote that you're from São Paulo. I'm assuming SP means São Paulo, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. I know some things. So yeah, first of all, thanks. Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me, Vitor. It's a pleasure to be here. So we're going to talk about broad amount of topics. I know you said something like this already. Yeah, I'm just translating for myself, sort of. So it is a very, very good question. I think the topic of junior we're going to cover today, and we can also start with that. It is not that easy. Let me already tell you, it is not going to be too easy, but that is also good to be prepared for this road. So if you actually find a job easier, you know, like if you find the process quite simple, then that will be a very good surprise, right? But you just prepare yourself for something that will take several. I don't know how it is in Brazil. I know in Europe it might take several months to find your first job as a junior developer. I would also recommend, if you do not, so it would be nice to also know if you have any education, if it's a bachelor degree, if it's a higher education, if it's some type of courses, which is also fine and good. Usually if it's courses from some people, I know they might help you to get some type of a project work, or at least something as volunteering. That would be a good idea. I think in general, if you can find anyone interested in your services, even for free. So the first things that you need to do is to maybe get some experience. So volunteering is also experience. Working in non-governmental organizations is also experience. So this is something that you can already add on CV. I would also invite you to be more active on social media, or let's say LinkedIn. If people that here maybe not starting LinkedIn so far, I encourage you to do that. I think LinkedIn is really great. And then there you can build a bit of a presence, a bit of connections as well. So you have some networking, right? And then there you can ask for help. I see quite a lot of people. So first you need to get some like people connections from companies, and then you can just write a message. I see that quite often that says, hello, everyone, I'm looking for my first job. Please like and share. And then someone can actually see that. So that is potentially very good. So that is that, because the market for juniors right now is a bit tough. As you know, there are a lot of layoffs happening and the market getting a bit tighter, right? So it's a bit harder to get into market if you're not a senior, right? So for seniors, it's good, but for juniors and middle level, it is quite complicated right now. But I think you can totally do that, especially if you have just a little bit of some experience already. You can do some things. You know, all the things that I just said.
And if I can say a little bit also about this, I think it's very important to show off what you have already done, right? So if you have done any course and you have like a project you've done, maybe build like a web page to showcase it, to have like places really showing what you did. If you could do this, share the GitHub link of the place that you
absolutely
the code, the code you've done. All right, so this is a very good.
If you're doing any type of media thing like a podcast or YouTube lives or any of that source, maybe you're writing some articles somewhere, also showcase. So that is very important to include that in your CV as well. And on LinkedIn page, you can also showcase. There's like a place where you can put this as a highlight. I do not know what it is called in Portuguese, but there's this highlight section where you can also put those things. You can put the links out there, and that will be already very, very good. If you're interested, I have a lot of also recruiters from Brazil that maybe I can share. You know, usually recruiters are very kind people in general. Those that, especially those that are active on LinkedIn, and then they can just share it with someone else. And I've been thinking about that. I do not know how this idea lands. I'm just asking people here. I wanted to do sort of like a job seeking Saturday or job seeking Sunday, where I will get people like Rubens and just add them in the post and just say, hey, these are the people, they're looking for jobs, please take them. It is quite crazy from a recruiter, because usually I'm the one that's, you know, that's my job and I get bonus for it. This is my money. I make living out of it. But I think it's very important to help community just because they need help, right? So I think it's also very cool. If the idea is good, just leave a comment and say something, then I might be doing this next week.
Very good. Okay, so guys, please give your comments here. We are gonna check all of them, right? If time permits. So now just a little bit of Portuguese just to present everything again. Some more people are connecting. Então, galera, hoje a gente está conversando aqui com a Regina. Nós falando aqui em português novamente, só para entraram várias pessoas aí, já temos 26 pessoas acompanhando aqui. Então, já vai deixando o seu comentário, a sua dúvida. Se você quer entender um pouco mais sobre algo que ela está falando, pode colocar no comentário também. E eu só queria fazer um pequeno destaque aqui para o nosso grande evento, o nosso primeiro grande evento aqui do Inglês para Devs, que vai rolar esse ano. Primeira mão aqui, primeiro aviso que eu estou falando, na verdade, nas redes sociais, que é a nossa Semana Inglês para Devs, que vai rolar agora do dia 13 a 17 de março. Então, aí já logo depois do carnaval, você já está tranquilo, já passou tudo que você tinha que passar aí, né, de férias, etc. E você já pode, né, participar lá. Então, se você está participando aqui dessa conversa, você quer melhorar ainda mais o seu inglês, então essa é uma grande oportunidade para você, é um evento 100% gratuito. Acho que vocês, inclusive, já devem ter participado de alguma delas, né? Então, espero vocês lá. O link está aqui na descrição do vídeo e também os links, todos os links da Regina também estão aqui na descrição do vídeo, tá? Então, o LinkedIn dela, Instagram, etc, tá tudo aqui na descrição. É só você ir lá e, né, espera acabar a live, né? Espera acabar aí, depois você vai lá, ok? So, I just told them that every link of you is in the description most below here, so just go there and click it.
I understand a little bit of Portuguese. I'm just a bit shy to speak, but I understand.
You said like bom dia, and it was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay, so can we go to the first question, like the first official question here? Yeah, let's go. So that's going to be the first question. What are the IT job market trends in 2023, right? So 2023 is starting with some different aspects, I would say, for IT market. during pandemics, we had a boom of opportunities and a boom of many places to go. But now I think it's a little bit different, right? So
Absolutely.
how would you say that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So in the pandemics, we saw this booming of remote work and everything. Everyone would go remote because everyone was forced to go remote, right? So especially here in Europe, US as well. So people would be very comfortable being, on this remote job, and it's amazing, right? You don't need commute and everything. And then all the remote services also just rocketed because Netflix and Google and all those companies, they saw so much potential, right? And the stocks went up, right? So everything was crazy. So they hired so many people. They never hired this much before per yearly basis. And then in 2020, they still continued to hire a lot, although there were a lot of signs already of a bit of a like a crisis and everything. And then there were different things affecting that, like war included, but also the financial markets. And then they realized suddenly that they're overhiring, so they're doing those layoffs, right? So already last year there were a lot of layoffs. This year started like crazy. So in January we saw Google, Meta, Amazon,
Twitter.
Wayfair, Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. Twitter is a bit of
Twitter. Hello, yeah. There is a little controversy there.
exactly.
But
So Twitter
yeah.
is a bit of a special case, although Twitter unfortunately also served as an example. So we know that there were 7,000 people working there, and then they shaved like, I don't know, half of them, and the company still works. The company is still there. Twitter is, we're all using Twitter. I also use Twitter, by the way, so follow me there. And then they saw that, oh, we cut so many people and the company is still working. So all other companies saw that, and the investors
Mhm.
saw that, and they're like, oh, maybe we all haven't too many people, maybe we cut a little bit. And then but they were also like, this is not the main problem, this is not the main thing, but it's also like Twitter was a bit of an example. I think
Mhm.
the overhiring was there mostly. And then as soon as you lay off people, the stocks go a little bit up, and the investors are a bit happier. So this is what's happening. And Google did this big layoff as well recently. We do not know. Some of the companies also have second rounds of layoffs, right? And this is, I think, is already a bit too much. I know that Wayfair did the second layoff. That is not a good trend for sure.
Yeah.
I hope that won't be happening with the bigger companies as well. Let's see how it all goes. So there are a lot of senior people on the market that are ex-Googlers, ex-Amazon, and all those ex-big names. So of course, the market is pretty saturated right now. It is still possible to find a job, and it's possible to move if someone is interested in relocation. It's still possible to find a job in the US. It's all possible. It's just a bit harder. You need to look for those opportunities. That is, I'm talking about middle and senior level. For juniors, that is a bit more complicated because that was already a trend during pandemics, because in remote setup, it's really hard to onboard juniors,
Mhm.
right? Because no one really wants to take care of juniors, because the setup is not
You have
ideal, because
to
if a
teach
junior
them
is sitting
everything.
exactly. So that, like, if someone's sitting next to you and asks questions, right, it's fine. But if with the remote setup, it's a bit more complicated. And I saw some people out of my personal connections that would be juniors. They would try to find a job. They would find a job, but then they would quit because it was just not possible to be there even as a junior, because it's really hard. Or some
So,
companies did not hire them. So that is a little bit complicated for juniors. I do believe everything is possible. Everything
mhm.
is possible. I myself come from, Vitor already knows, right? So I myself come from teaching. I'm an English teacher. And then I
Yeah.
still found a job. I became a QA, and then I opened my own business. So there are no barriers for you whatsoever. So you can definitely do that. You just need to be smart about that, and just realize that this is the process that will take time and effort. So you will
Mhm.
need to realize that, okay, for that, I will need some time during the week where I will be focused on finding a job. So
Mhm.
before I know, like, and maybe in Brazil as well, correct me if I'm wrong, like it is easier to find a job. You can find a job in 2-3 weeks, right? So probably, right? So this is what I heard as well. Like it's possible. In Europe, it's like 2-3 months, just for you to know, even if you're already not a junior person. So these are the trends. For juniors, it's a bit harder. For seniors and middle, it's still possible and doable. You just need to take a bit more effort in doing so.
There's a thing I like to think every time there's these mass layoffs and stuff, is when you are a good, you deliver a lot, right? You are a good software developer. You will never be unemployed, you know? Like if you, of course, lay off, you were fired, that's okay. But if you were really good, there will always be a company needing you, right? If you have the best skills, you rock, you know. So I have this mindset. It's pretty mine. This I don't know if this is correct, but if you are really good, you will always find something, you know. So just showcase yourself. This is very important. If you don't show off, sometimes people will never recognize who you are and what you do.
Exactly.
So it doesn't make any sense to be a very good programmer, but you have everything hidden. You know, you don't show anything to anyone, and you don't have any website that you can show to people. So that's really that's something that I would do maybe in your case, and that you were looking, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were also talking before here in the other day. We were also talking about CV, right? CV for guys, it's curriculum, right? So how to write your CV to get the attention of recruiters? I think that's a very good question because CVs in Brazil are structured a little bit differently, right? They have we usually have this general document that you write and then you spread all to as many companies as you want to work for. And I know it's a little bit different, the process. So what could you tell them, and how can a person get the attention? Because this is another thing that I learned with experience by myself. When you are recruiting people, you have like thousands of curriculums, hundreds of curriculums, you know, and you're just screening them. You're not really looking, paying attention. So there must be something that catches the attention of a recruiter. So what can you tell everyone here just to get the attention?
Yeah, I also consulted some of the people that I know that are engineering managers. So that means that they're hiring managers. So they have experience in hiring in different teams across Europe. So I've got also their opinion recently. I do have my own vision as a recruiter, right? So in the process, usually I am the first one getting all the CVs and sifting them, right? Or separating those that are okay, good ones, and those that are not okay. And then only those already go to the hiring manager, right? And hiring managers, they have a bit of a different attitude. And sometimes we also have a bit of a different sort of standard. So for me, for example, I would say the CV is 1-2 pages. It's a very good one. So do not try to make it into 3 or 4 or 5 pages, right? That is, as you mentioned, we just do not have time to read everything properly. So recruiters usually scan the CV, and what we're scanning for, it takes less than a minute, just for you to understand. So everything should be very visible, logical, clean, not a lot of information that is just a text, like this year I, you know, like the sort of like a little bit of an essay. No,
huge paragraph.
Exactly. So bullet points, some separated words, some skills and everything that is perfect. So 1-2 pages is good. The hiring manager I talked to yesterday said, no, 1 page. The second I'm not going to read. So just decide for yourself if you want to do the second page. I would definitely read. But also like 2 pages is a good amount, not much. I also know that a lot of people that are senior or they had a lot of projects, they would love to list everything. I would say the last 3 jobs, you can just have a bit of a more text, right? And then the other jobs, let's say you had, I don't know, 10 jobs during your career, you have 15 years of experience. And then all those jobs, you can just put one liner and say, hey, from this to this time, I worked as a developer, or like as an, I don't know, front-end developer, back-end developer, here. Because that is already maybe not as important as your last 3 or 4 jobs. So that would be good. And then you can squeeze it in one page, and that would be good. Then if we're limiting ourselves to 1 page or 2 pages, maybe you do not need a photo, right? So the picture, there's some discussions about that, to add or not to add. I think that would be safer just not to add, because then you do not have any bias, right? So that is already easier. I'm not saying that I know anyone that would be biased towards certain types of personalities of how people look, but that is still good just to completely skip the picture, right?
If you can avoid that, it's a good idea, right? People
exactly.
will kind of judge you if you just have a photo, and they will maybe not like you because of your appearance. And
exactly.
That's too bad, right? So if you can avoid that, just go for it.
Yeah. Also, sometimes people still go for adding a picture, and then it's a picture from vacation background, you know, and then it's maybe already a bit too much. Or people wearing suits. If you're a developer, maybe you don't really wear a suit at work, right? So this is something also not exactly connecting with the job you're going to do. So that is completely okay just to skip the picture, and then you can have a bit more text, right? So you're planning on that. That also, I think there's this trend that is happening. I've seen that quite often. You do self-rating of your skills. For example, you have, I don't know, Java development, 4 stars out of 5, or iOS development, 3 stars out of 5. So this is also something that no one pays attention to, because I am not a technical recruiter. I cannot judge you on those points, right? So for me, they're just taking space, you know. And the hiring recruiter, the hiring manager, that is your technical manager, they usually say, I grade you according to our conversation. So all the grades that you put there, they're completely irrelevant, because this is the manager, the tech lead will grade you, right? So, okay, do you know that, or you don't know that? It will be shown during your technical assignment, during your technical interview, and having that is a bit, maybe it will create some type of a bias, or maybe maybe you have imposter syndrome, right? Or you're just being a bit shy about your abilities, and then you put 3 stars, but actually for this company it's 5 stars, because that is the maximum you need to know out of this exactly tech skill, right? So that is also something to keep in mind when you're doing that. Also, there are quite often information that is completely not needed. That is your age, your status. Let's say you're married or you're single. That is completely, just take it off, because this is something that is it will create more bias, right? Or it will actually take space on your page. I think this is something that you can completely skip. And that those are the things. That no personal information is needed except for your email, right? Your name, your email. And I also, one of the things I see that in the Brazilian candidates market, because I work a lot with Brazil, you have a lot of names. Usually Brazilians, they have several names. So they have first name, and then they have maybe 2 middle names, and then the last name can also consist of 2 names or something like that. And then people on LinkedIn, they're named with 1 name. And then in the CV, it's completely different names. So sometimes we lose them. We lose them in our system, because they are for us, they're 2 different people.
They're 2 different people.
Exactly. So try to be very consistent, right? So if you have your LinkedIn, add the same information there. So that will be, if you want to add your full name with all your middle names, that is also completely fine, but you can just add one of the names, let's say the first one, the one that you go, like the one that everyone calls you, right? And then your last name. So that will be, and just take care of it so it's consistent. You were absolutely right also, Vitor, about creating specific CVs for each role. Because the thing is that, especially if you're going to work in Europe or remotely for the US, that is better to create separate CV for each role, because then, maybe for this role you do not need certain tech skills, but here you need to list everything. Or let's say you also did some volunteer experience, or you want to tailor it towards this specific role. So you need to be creative a little bit, right? And then sometimes, especially if there's a person that did a lot of different things, for example, you can be a Python developer, you can also be a data scientist or a data engineer, so you know all of that. Better to create two separate ones, right? So two separate CVs, and then to send it accordingly to the different companies. Or people tried a lot of backend, right? Backend, and then that's better to just call it not just backend engineer. You can go like, Java engineer, or Go developer, right? So that would be better. And then I, as a recruiter, catch this as well, like, that's good, right? And then
if you're looking for that and you see this, it's like a spotlight, right? You just okay, that's one that goes to the approved pile, right? And then you move to the next one.
Exactly.
Something that I usually do when I have to hire someone to my company here is like I really pay attention to this description paragraph, right? It's usually very short, but it tells me a lot of who the person is, and if he or she is really worried about having a good impression or showing a good impression, right? So
yes,
this is like a question of myself right now. How would you recommend a person to write like the first line of the CV, right? Because usually that's the first thing we read when you get the CV. You are looking for some specific points, of course, but usually it's the first thing. So I always think this, like the first thing, the first words should get the attention, right? So is there anything you would recommend to say, to write, or not to write? I think not writing is also very important. So what do you think about it? This is my own question. It's like completely out of it.
I think it's also to tailor it, or like to tailor it specifically to the job, and then you can actually mention something. For example, when I applied as a QA a long time ago, so I was applying to different companies, but I also had a bit of a gaming background. So whenever I applied for gaming, I would mention some titles there. So when I work, for example, when I and it's also like, it should not be a lot of text. Let's start with that. So it should be, some people prefer just one line. I think 1 to 3 lines would be nice, but also not make it too much of a text, right? So because then nobody would read it and everybody would just skip to your job experience, and that would be it. I recommend to put some numbers, definitely years of experience written with the digit, because then the digits, the numbers is something that catches our attention. The names, for example, when I applied to work at King, that makes Candy Crush, I actually worked there. And then I mentioned the name of it in the profile, I think, because I used to, sometime before working there, I used to be a beta tester of some of the games. And I said, I also did that. And there were some experiences that I did in those years. So you can just mention some of the names, some of the things or projects that you worked at. But I think usually this is a piece of very short information on who you are, right? So this is just a very like, I'm motivated, you can say motivated, or you can just say any word that suits you. Developer with 5+ years of, if you already have 5 or 4.9, I would just say 5, just round it up a little bit, right? 5+ years of experience with this and this and this, and I also prefer this and this. And also, if you can state the industry, for example, you're applying for some fintech company, just state that you also had some fintech experience, right? So, I worked in the bank, the biggest bank of Brazil, or something like this, that would be, you're stating the field, and also you're stating the country. So that is, like, it's interesting. So that's already like, I know that the biggest bank of Brazil is probably something you can say, and then I can already see like, okay, that's very good, because then we're working also in the fintech sector, and that is a super relevant experience. So something like that very short. I can also recommend you, I think I recommend it to everyone already. You can also go to ChatGPT and check it out, because they can create super, if you do request right, so then they can do a super nice line that would be exactly tailored to you, right? So that will be just telling about you if you just feed the information correctly. Then it can create some nice warnings. Especially, I think it's good for people that are not very confident in their English. Then that would be great. I sometimes use the ChatGPT myself, right, for some lines, and then it's like, oh wow, that's good. If you use it right, I think it's good.
That's a pro tip for sure. All right, so we could be talking about CV forever, but but we have some more questions here, so let's move. The next one here is actually a pretty straightforward question about how to apply for jobs. We have these many platforms nowadays. We have LinkedIn. There's I think maybe the biggest one, but we have many of them, and maybe the ones that we are used to use in Brazil are not the same that people from Europe or the USA or maybe Canada, I don't know, they use. So how would you, guide people here about the job appliance platforms and this kind of thing?
LinkedIn is, I think, is a very, very good tool. I would say almost all companies have their jobs there. You can also, I think, at LinkedIn, why is it good? Because then you can follow the page of this company, and then they post some of the things, right? And then you can also click on notifications, so you can be even notified if they will make any post or anything. And I would also advise to check the site separately, because still some of the companies somehow there's a bit of a lag, so they already have it on the website, but they do not have it on LinkedIn, because usually it's done, I don't know, maybe manually. I don't know how bigger companies do that. So sometimes they already have it there on the website, but they don't have it on LinkedIn. So just check both. I would just advise to do that, especially when you're in the active job search. You just follow the companies that you really like. And then the coolest thing, that if you have a lot of connections, or at least some connections, you can also see which connection on LinkedIn worked or used to work there. There are some fields where you can find this information, and then you can go to this person, even if you don't know them personally. You can just come and say, hey, is it okay if you can recommend me to someone, because I really like the company and blah, blah, blah. If you write to several people like this, at least one will answer, yeah, sure.
Eventually one will answer. And people are really helpful in the IT market, right? When I talk to people who are not from the IT market, I don't know why, but they have this impression that IT market, like, very jealous people who doesn't like to share knowledge, and it's totally the opposite, right? Like, they're really supportive people. They're always willing to help. And if you do that, that's actually a very good strategy, like to send messages. And you're actually, maybe if you can keep talking with the person there, and then you have like a new person in your networking process, right? So
absolutely, I think it's great, because people are, maybe some people are not very open to those conversations, but you can find a person. Again, try not to be too much, if you just send a message every day, and that might be a bit too much, but you can find a person that is nice. And then if you do that nicely and say, oh, maybe sometime we have a chat or something, people are usually quite helpful. And especially if you're moving to another country and you already like know some people, they can recommend some things. And this is amazing, because they can say, oh, there's this dev community here, there's this meetup here, also in our company we host this type of events, and then you can get more connections and everything, so to get more people that and there are a lot of Brazilian communities here in Europe, and they're very friendly, friendly. So if you see a Brazilian person in the office, even if it's a big office, come talk to them. They will introduce you to more people, and then that's gonna be you're going to be invited to a couple of barbecue parties next week.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Barbecue, Brazilian barbecue actually is really good, and European people really tend to like it. And the good thing is that we like to do the barbecue, right? That's
I
the
know.
like
That's
everyone like, okay,
really
I like to take the meat and go to the grill
mm,
and do things. Yeah.
mm.
All right.
That's
Uh,
amazing. Like I really love. I have a lot of Brazilian connections. My boyfriend is Brazilian, and everyone just loves cooking and loves sharing that. And this is a great culture of sharing food and sharing fun. So that's
yeah,
yeah.
that's true. All right. Our culture is a little bit contagious, right? Our kind of
Hmm.
happiness and stuff. It's really cool. Okay, so let's go to the next question here. What does the interview process look like? I know it's a little bit different from Brazil, right? They have different steps that here in Brazil sometimes they don't. Now, I think
Hmm.
during the years, over the years, I think the process in Brazil got more similar to the ones in Europe and the USA, Canada stuff
Hmm.
uh, because of this more globalized market, maybe. But
Hmm.
they are still a little bit different from my point of
Hmm.
view, right? So, what
Hmm.
do you think? What can you tell everyone about this
Hmm.
process?
Yeah. So yes, that is probably quite different because in Europe the process. Just be prepared if you want to relocate, or if you even if you want to work remotely, the process will take a long time. So usually it is
Mm-hmm.
2 to 3 months. It is normal to have 2 to 3 months because a lot of people are involved in the process. There are quite a lot of stages. Then the final steps are also sometimes they require some, like especially if creating a contract, if you already have an offer, that will be a lot of things that by law you need to have it checked by people, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it might drag. 2 to 3 months is completely fine. Then the visa process usually take around 2 to 4 months, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because it's also like for now Brazil is quite good with the appointments in the consulate, but I remember there were times that would take a bit longer time, and in some of the countries around the world it takes even 5 6 months, right? So Brazil is still good. So there are a lot of factors that are not related to the company itself but to the international bureaucracy. So that is there as well. So if you're planning to move to Europe this year, you need to start looking right now, because
Right
two to
now.
three months, exactly, 2 to 3 months interview, 2 to 4 months the visa process. So the maximum it can take is 7 months. If you want to move this year, I think it's already good time because this is already February, right? The second month. So yeah. And then the thing is that around July, August, everywhere in Europe, the process slows down because they have vacation time. And usually
Mm-hmm.
vacation time
Summer,
is
right?
exactly, we have summer. So it can take longer time because people are just, yeah, not there.
Mm-hmm.
And December is also a bit hard because no one is basically working in December. So yeah, like you have it during carnival, so no one really paying attention to work. So
Yeah.
that will be the same. So the process may take a really long time. If we're talking
Okay.
about startups can be a bit faster because they really need people right now. But then they also prefer to hire either remotely, and we have this position sometimes, or a person should be already in Europe, right? So that is already a bit easier because startups also they cannot maybe afford relocation. It might be a bit complicated for them. So that, but the startups can do it faster. US is faster, definitely
Mm.
faster. Yes, so we have clients, and I think they hire people in general during 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere there. It might take a bit longer, depends also on the company, but it might be very fast. But they also fire you faster, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
is the thing, because in Europe, if you are hired in Europe and if you're relocated, you are already from day one protected by law with quite a lot of things. So you just need to be aware of that. And if
Yeah.
you're working here, if you're laid off, you're protected by law. So this is also, we talked with Fabio the other week. So people that did not hear that, I think you would be happy to know that even those big layoffs that are happening here, they, like for example Google, right? The Google layoff was announced 3 4 weeks ago already, but in Europe nothing happened yet because the work council and everything is like, it's such a long process because social security is so strong, you cannot just lay off people, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot.
Mm-hmm.
And in France, they decided not to lay off people because by law it was not possible. So Google France is safe because they just did not do that. In Germany, they are still negotiating. There's still a lot of things happening. They might be also negotiating the numbers, so it might be less amount of people, and maybe they will be getting a better bonuses and better programs. So that is, you're quite secure here, especially if you have kids, especially if you have family, especially if you're on the visa. Then there are a lot of things like that. And then there's also a thing where you can just go to a lawyer and ask for their consultation, and they can point you even more things that you can demand from your company, maybe, to get it. So that is very important to know. Here you're pretty safe, especially if you live here longer, and let's say you have already permanent visa, you can receive help from the government, and that is actually pretty good help. So you don't need to be scared if you have family to feed, right? So you have your time here. So that is pretty cool.
That's a big difference from Europe to the US, right? In the US, you're really dependent on your contract. If your contract doesn't tell that you have like self assurance or health care, something like that, you don't, right? And this thing that we Brazilians, we usually don't pay attention too much when we are thinking about working abroad. That are the laws, right? The laws of the place, they are different. In Brazil, we are kind of used with a very protective government, and the laws are really well established for long years. We have like a vacation. We have the 13th salary, right? It's like an extra amount of money you receive in the end of the year. So when you go to another country, it depends on the country, depends on the place, and the laws are very different. So you should also be taking care of that, right? Very good.
Yeah.
So now that we have already talked about the interview process, we're still going to talk about the process, but to differ the junior and senior positions, right? So is the process different for junior and senior positions?
The process itself, I think, will include the same stages, right? So you first, we didn't talk about the stages, right? So when you apply with your CV, and then the first step is the recruiter just saying yes or no to your CV, right? And then if it's a yes, if it's a good CV, then we have a call. Usually, so it can be either a phone call or it can be a video call. It depends on the company. So I know that both are doing that. I personally prefer video calls because I want to see the person. I want to see how they are, how they talk, and everything. So then after that, there's usually a technical. So there are different things that can be. So usually after that, there might be a technical assignment. So you need to do technical assignments are very popular. I know not a lot of developers love it, but there's just the way, right? Because here in Europe, usually the amount of people applying is so high, you cannot just have first technical interview and then just figure out, oh, the person is actually not a good fit for us. So there is a technical interview. It's usually given for a week. You are, by the way, it's very good if you ask questions about that. If there's anything that is not clear about the technical assignment, please ask questions. You can just send your list to a person. There are no dumb questions. You can just say, hey, just to make things clear, right? Because I've seen a lot of things where a person seems to be very nice, very good developer, or I think we were hiring DevOps, and then they got some assignment, and then they just did not get this exactly line very well. They didn't get it. They didn't understand that they were supposed to do that. And then they completely just failed the assignment because they didn't ask questions. So that is important. If you want, you can just ask questions. So HR interview, technical assignment, technical interview. Then in some companies, there's also meet the team, where you talk to more team members, and they actually also, I wouldn't say it's technically, but sometimes there are some technical questions that might be there, but usually it's just, feeling the vibes. And then there is offer. Sometimes there are more layers that are added to that, but usually that's around 5. And then it takes around 2 to 3 months, I would say. And then there is offer, and then there is negotiation of an offer. or
Mm-hmm.
preparation of the offer or preparation of the contract, and it drags a bit longer, right? So that is there.
Sure.
Quite often companies just do the digital signing of the contract. Some of the companies send it to you, which is very funny because you receive a paper contract that you need to sign and send it back, like you have 2 copies. But mostly it's just this DocuSign or something where you just pen the doc, where you just sign the document. And yeah, that's about that. So for junior and a senior, that will be a difference, of course, because from the senior, you have more requirements from a senior person, right? You need to assess them, how autonomously they act,
Mm-hmm.
how independent they act, so they don't need any guidance, right? Maybe in the beginning, right? But they usually need to be digging things on themselves by themselves. How they are into coaching, because usually a senior person coaches other people. Then depending also on the company and what exactly they want you to bring decisions and solutions and actually say, oh, this would be a good solution for that, and actually explain it to the team or to the tech lead, right? So that there's some level of seniority. This is for me the senior person, right? And so that will be a very different experience of the interviews. For junior, of course, you are not supposed to be this autonomous and everything, because you're just learning.
That's
I
right.
would also say that I think that's it. I see also I see also a lot of people that are junior that are female developers, which is great. But also what I see personally, that they are not very confident in their skills. So whenever I see a female developer, I just try to tell them, yes, you can do that. Like I do a little bit of this pep talk with them, because I see that quite often. Yeah.
I would like I would
I see
like
we have some
to
women. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add 2 things, right? I think people think that European jobs or abroad jobs, they are really different from ours, and they are not, right? You're gonna do basically the same thing. Of course, you're gonna have to talk in English and cooperate with people. Maybe if you are abroad, remotely, it's gonna be different. And the second thing, it's about being confident, right? We were talking about those interviews, the technical interviews, and maybe you don't even need, that's for my experience, okay? Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just saying for myself, you don't even need to get the code that the guy is trying to ask you right. If you feel yourself confident of your solution, right? Like there's a problem, you have to make an algorithm or a pseudo algorithm, right? Have to write on the board, the famous whiteboard interview. So you don't even have to do it right to the end. If you feel confident and you talk to the person, okay, so I'm gonna do this because of that, and it will result to that. It will use that amount of data to the processor. It's going to be faster than if I have done the other way. And you discuss what you're doing with the person. This is a very good way to show you are confident about what you're doing. Maybe it's not the best solution for the person, but they will know that you know what you're doing, right? And being confident and speaking, training speaking, I think it's really important for the technical interview, not being only technically prepared, right? And to kind of know the social aspects of the technical interview. I think it's pretty important too. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right. Okay, so next one here, and we are almost in the last one. Okay, so what tips could you give for the first HR interview? So as you were saying, in the process, the first interview is with the HR, right?
Yes.
The Human Resources Department.
Yeah.
So what are the tips for this?
So the tips are, because the HRs usually they do not dig too much deep into the technical content. So you do not need to prepare, study some technical things or prepare like you would prepare for the technical interview, right? So HR interview is a bit more chill. So I would advise you to schedule it as soon as possible, because sometimes people are like, oh, I need to prepare so many things. I will schedule it in 2 weeks, right? And then that's already will drag the process a little bit. So what is important for the HR interview? What we check is your motivation, sanity check, and just social skills. So what is sanity check? Sanity check is that you are Vitor, and this is Vitor, right? So this is the same person that I have in CV, and then it all matches that you are who you are, and then you're talking about your experience. So I would definitely ask a question like, oh, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? So you will tell a little bit about yourself, go maybe through some of the experiences that you had, like, oh, I worked here, I picked it up here, blah, blah, blah. So I just see that, oh, everything matches. Then the next one is motivation. You need to, I would advise you to check a little bit of information about the company, what they're doing, check their social pages, social media pages, on LinkedIn, probably something. There are usually some news, right? So for example, we work for Opera software, and I don't know if everyone knows, right? Because it's a browser company, they also are doing a gaming browser, and they also have a lot of other solutions that are now with crypto, which is a very interesting. So whenever I have a call with someone and someone tells me like, oh, I know this is happening in Opera and they also made the payment system, the crypto wallet and whatnot, I would be surprised a bit in a good way, right? I would be like, oh, the person actually is interested, So and then that would be a very big check mark. Like, okay, that's a very good one. So please study a little bit about the company. You don't need to memorize everything, when the company was founded or anything. You just need to know a little bit of what's happening, or at least where, the offices are situated. That would be also maybe useful. Or like how many people, how big the company, how they're doing. And another one is social skills. Brazilians are usually very good at that. So just be nice to people, right? Because the HR is the first person of the company that you're seeing, and by this you will be sort of like judged, right? Because we're making notes, and then they'll be like, oh, very nice, very social, very kind person that is sort of caring, and that is very good. Because I've been through a lot of interviews, and there's sometimes people that are developers, they are maybe a little bit more grumpy, a little bit more introverted, which is also fine, but you also need to be nice, right, on the interview, because this shows that you are ready to work with other people. Because if you fail this first interview, you won't go through. So these are the 3 things that I would suggest to be improving, and that is it. So that does not require too many things. Language related, right? So English related. There's some things that of course, if your English is not perfect, that would be good if you can play it out with someone that knows English. You can just sit with your partner, your friend, maybe you have an English teacher, maybe Vitor might help as well, right? So you can just say, okay, I need a lesson where I can be prepared for the interview. Actually, in my team, there's one recruiter that is doing that. So if needed, there's she includes those things. And then you can just play it out, and then you can see, oh, okay, I think I'm forgetting this word. I need to write it down. Or I'm forgetting this one. I need to also maybe write it down. That would be easier, right? Because you have a little bit of a piece of paper, or something. You don't need to look there, but you need to know that, oh, this is the word that I'm forgetting, or something else, like, oh, I'm confusing this. So that will be helpful for me to have it there. That is good. And then, so just to have that, it will boost your confidence really, really well, especially if you played 2-3 times. You will just say some things automatically. You don't even need to think about them, because I know that we're all not English speakers. I'm also not an English speaker, right? I'm a Russian speaker. And that might be really tough, especially if you never worked in English before, to train it, right? To train it as much as you can. So whenever you train it 2, 3, 5 times with your friend, then you can already say those things automatically. You don't need to stress about it, and you can focus on the content, right? Because when you speak in English, there are 2 parts. There's content that is important because you need to communicate exactly this information. And there's this form or language rules itself. And then if you make a mistake here, you will be so worried about that, you might forget about that, the content itself, right? So that's the thing. I went through that Same
Yeah.
thing. I did the same. My English was never perfect, but then you just learn. It's like a muscle, right? You train it.
That brings us to the next question that I was actually thinking about here. How can bad English impact the interview process, right? You were saying that it affects the candidate himself or herself because the person will get a little bit nervous. But do you think
Exactly.
that the recruiters or the company will really pay attention to bad English? You think bad English
Um,
is it's a factor that can you can't work here because you don't have a good English or you can't
so
communicate.
yeah. I think we also need to define what bad English is. So if it's a
Okay.
bad English to the point where we just cannot communicate, we just it's not happening, right? I'm asking you a question and then the person is sitting there saying like, understand, that is already the bad English that will not happen. Like I cannot hire this person because the communication is clearly not happening.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a bad English, it's not a bad English, right? Or you mixed something preposition, or you forgot you use something, I don't know, instead of present simple you use present continuous, whatever, right? Or there's something that you just don't know the word. For example, there's some of the words which we normally do not learn on the courses, or but you need to speak about that, right? And you forgot this word. So here I can definitely, so about the grammar, don't worry much. If you are confident and if you see that the person understands you, right, that is completely fine. You can even repeat yourself, but it's okay just to use whatever you already used. It's fine. If you are there where it's what did I just say? I forgot. I lost myself for a second. So bad English for the form and bad English for the oh, you forgot the word, right? I remembered. You
Yeah,
forgot the word.
that's what
You can just say, oh, it just slipped out of my mind, and then you can explain it,
you can
right?
describe the thing, right? You go
Exactly,
around and describe it, but do it,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it's completely fine. You can make a joke out of it. You can,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's a video. I don't know. You forgot what the bulb is, the lampada, right? I'm saying correctly. So you forgot this
Right.
word, and then you can just say, this one in the lamp, and then and
Mm-hmm.
it's already a joke, right? It's already sort of like it lightens the mood, and everyone feels a bit better, and it's completely fine. So it also will even benefit to your social skills, right? So this falls into category of social skills. If there is a
Perfect.
thing where you did not understand something because it happens, right? So you just didn't get the question. It is okay to ask again.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask, and again, if it happens 2 or 3 times during the interview, might be a bit of a sign, right? So maybe like, oh, okay. But you can also do it in different ways. So you can just ask, what did you just say? And then you can just paraphrase. It's like, oh, do you want me to tell about this and this? It's a bit of a different
Mm.
ways of, so you can play
Checking if
around with that.
you really got it right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So you can do different things. Also, just not to be afraid of the grammar. It is, of course, cool if you know all the grammar and if you're using very cool constructions and advanced
Mm-hmm.
English. But if it's not advanced, but you can still speak and you can still be there and you can still, smile and talk to a person. That is already pretty good. If you can do the technical interview and everything, it's even okay if your English is not, B2 or something. It can be B1, like, yeah, intermediate, because you can also learn it later, right? A
Mm-hmm.
little bit more.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, talking about a technical interview, that's going to be the last question. Then, guys, we go to the comments, okay, to the chat. So if you have any question, just send it there. Just send it straight away. So last question here. What about the technical interview? Are there any tips you could tell us about them? We were talking about the technical interview a few minutes ago, but is there anything in the specific you would like to tell everyone here?
Yes, so I would also, if you already passed the HR interview, if you already did the technical assignment, I would recommend you to get an English teacher that will talk to you, not doing the grammar, not doing
Mm-hmm.
something else, just to have conversations, to ask them before, like, hey, can you do that with me? Like, you can even give sort of like the list of questions that you can find on Google, right? You just Google things like, okay, what are the technical questions that I usually ask for Java developer, right? Or something.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can ask those questions. Then you can give your teacher those questions. The only thing that you need is them to ask you to answer, and then the teacher will correct your grammar or structures or something. So that is exactly what we talked about, the content and the form, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here, the content matters the most, right? Because you need to give the content. If you keep focusing on the form when, oh my God, I missed something, you can screw it up, right? So that is very important. So try to automate the form or the language itself as much as possible. For the technical interview, as I already said, it is okay to ask back, right? To just check, like, oh, this is what you wanted to tell me about. Because sometimes if you're asked about one thing and you start talking about another, that's already a no-go, right? So this is definitely there. If there's some, like, try to use as simple language as possible, right? Because the most important thing that you need to know are the tech stack, the verbs, right? So the verbs like, oh, I deployed, those verbs that are specific for the profession that you have, right? So or I debug, or I did this.
Mm-hmm.
Also, try to check how the words are pronounced, because I work a lot with Russian speakers as well, and they can speak. So they know the English terms, but they speak a bit in a Russian accent, not accent,
Mm-hmm.
but they use those words in Russian. So they just say as they usually say that in Russian. And then sometimes it's not recognizable. The same goes to Brazilians, right? So sometimes it is the way things pronounced. I spend some time understanding some of the things. And then I'm like, oh, that's that word. Okay, now I understand. Because, for example, we had developers from Argentina and they would say Java. And it took me
Hava.
some time. Exactly. It took me some time. And I was like, oh, Java. Okay, now I understand, right? So those are the things. Just try to maybe to listen to some podcast. Maybe, just before the interview, just to understand how it is. I would also recommend to have a good night of sleep and just not to worry about that. Then everything that you learned before will come back to you. That is a very good tip that also there. So yeah, those are the things. Like, do not be afraid to ask back, to also rephrase things.
Mm-hmm.
Take a teacher and maybe have some intense, like 1, 2, 3 lessons that you can have. Try to listen to some podcasts to catch some more words, and just maybe a list of words. You can also write it down, right? For each of the things that you think they might ask you, you can write down some things, and you can take a highlighter and highlight the words that you don't know, and then they will stick better. So those are the things that I would say English-wise are there. So
Mm-hmm.
technically, I will not advise anyone because I'm not a technical recruiter, and it's very specific per person and per profession as well, per job.
That's
So I'm
true.
not gonna advise there, but those are the tips that you can use.
Okay, really good. Okay, so I think now we are good to answer some questions of you
Yes.
guys, right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna take the first one here. It's in Portuguese. I'm gonna translate. Gustavo said, bom dia, sou dev há 2 anos e gostaria de saber quais as tecnologias de back-end e front-end estão em alta na gringa, right? So he basically said, what are the technologies that are trending outside Brazil, abroad, right? Can I start, then you compliment and you do like this? Well,
Yes.
Gustavo, I would say that the technologies, they don't really vary, right, from Brazil to outside, right? If it's trending outside, it's trending here. However, I think it's a little bit wrong for you to understand what technologies are trending, then you study that technology because of that, right? Because until you learn that technology, it will take some time, and then that technology is not trending anymore. So really take something that you like, build something that is valuable to someone, that delivers content truly, and then you will find a place or a job that uses that technology that you've learned already and then that you're good at, right? We're still having COBOL jobs, right? That is a very old language, right? You have C++, and actually we are needing C++ developers, right now, because they're not here. They actually, where are the C++ developers?
C++ is still, you still can find a lot of things. For example, in gaming, it's happening, and Google, I have it as well. So
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say like, yeah, Convo probably not the technology you should be investing your time into. And
No, don't do this.
yeah, yeah.
But
So,
as I was saying, okay, can you can say if you want.
Absolutely the same things. The back end ones, I see a lot of demand for Go developers. Rust is popular. It's also not as popular, I would say, but Go, Java still there. You know, Python. It also depends on where you want to go, because let's say if it's a crypto related company and we have clients that work with that, then it's Python, Go, and Rust, I would say. Like these are the three things that are there. But then companies just differ. You know, you need to also check. You can also, like, there are some companies that let's say like Google, right? You can know one thing very well, and they will take you even if it's outside of the scope. So because if you learn this very well, then you can just jump and learn something else. So that is okay. Like some of the companies are truly okay with that. Front end one, yeah, same. Like I would say they're not that much difference from what I see from our candidates from Brazil, which we have a lot, and then from what we are matching them in Europe. I would say that's the same.
All right. So this actually is it's a comment. It's not actually a question, but I really liked it. So Marcia said, besides English, if the person is going to apply to a opportunity, a vacancy outside Brazil, many companies they do like logic tests. You know, like the whiteboard interview. So it's good to train that, right? In Brazil, we don't kind of have that. We have some assessments that you go to a platform, you know, and you code in the platform, and then it's automated. I think they don't even see the code. Some of them they do, but outside, I know this is a very common practice, right? The whiteboard interview, you go there and write code. Is it really like a normal thing?
Yes, it is quite normal to have whiteboard interviews. So there, I know actually what Marcel is talking about, because there are some companies in Europe, I would say Scandinavia, where there is another type of assessment that is becoming popular. That is called ALVA test. ALVA test is the test of two things. It's your personality. So sort of like, let's say a company has their values that are, or they want people to be friendly, innovative, creative, blah, 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 you know, those things. And then they create a test where you just answer questions. And then it's like, oh, it's not, there's a statement, let's say, I like to do creative work. I don't know, something like that. And then it's like true, not true, somewhat true, completely not true, you know, those things. And then you answer. And then it rates you somewhere like, oh, okay, in the personality spectrum, you're more towards friendly and toward extrovert and toward this. And then they sort of like pick what, if it's a good profile. And then there's a logic part as well. This logic part is more close to those IQ tests where you need to find a pattern. There's like a logical thing. But this ALVA test is not that popular from what I see. A lot of companies actually have it now in Europe. It's a company from Sweden, actually. So maybe Swedish companies will have a bit more of those. I do not see that as often, but yes, sometimes this type of testing is included as well. Then there are also the standardized coding tests, let's say Codility, HackerRank, all those things where you have time limit, and then you need to have 3 or like 2, 3, 4 tasks on algorithms or something, and then you are time limited. You need to be very, very aware and ready to deal with the time limit, because some people are a bit, you know, like it's a bit stressful, which I understand. And then there are also technical interviews where you can also do whiteboard testing. So there are different. I'm not saying that all of those in one interview, but there are different combinations and people try to do different things. The whiteboard testing is quite popular, especially now with the rise of different types of like ChatGPT and other things where you can just copy and paste, and then it can give you a bit of a code, so that you are already it's like a AI proof, I would say. So if you're there, if you're recording something, and I think that would be easier on the whiteboard to see if you actually know this thing. So yeah, there are those types of testing that are popular. And also inviting person face-to-face interview, where you cannot use any magic tools or anything. That is also pretty hard, but it's not happening too often. Yeah.
Very good. So we have some more comments here. Alvina liked the tips we talked here about the CV, the picture. Yeah, they were really cool. If you didn't see what we were saying because you just arrived after the live, you just come back a little bit. We're gonna see that. And then there's this question of Bruno here. I really got interested about that. Do people with disabilities have any chance to be hired and sponsored?
Yes.
That's a
So
great question.
sponsored, most of the companies that I work with sponsor visa. Most of the companies. Sometimes it does not happen, but there are also some ways to help you. Like, for example, if you move to Germany and your company does not sponsor you any relocation bonus or anything, they don't cover anything. When you move to Germany, you can demand, so you can apply a certain document to the tax agency here in Germany, and you can get money back. Let's say you bought the ticket, save everything. If you move to Germany, I don't know, maybe Austria as well. Just if you move, just in case, save everything. Save the tickets.
Bought a bottle of water, save it.
Yeah. That I don't know, but definitely the ticket, the flights, and some apartment even, and some of the things. If you bought yourself some furniture for home, let's say computer related, like you bought yourself a desk or something, that might also go. I'm just saying things right now. Do not make me legally binding. I cannot. So there are some things that you can actually reimburse and study. So, and a lot of companies actually reimburse at least part of things. So that is for sure. People with disabilities, yes, of course. That very much depends on the disability, because not every company is ready for all types of disabilities. So let's say a person that there's a listening or speaking disability, right? So there are some limits there. Maybe not all the companies are ready for that, but there are definitely companies that are ready for those things as well, for people that have visual impairment. And so there are some companies. If there is a person that has limited mobility, I don't think there is a big of a problem, because Europe is very good to include everyone, right? And people with the mobility, limited mobility, they feel better here than in some other countries, for sure.
Yeah.
Because everything is flat. There are elevators. Companies usually have toilets for disability people. Like, that is all should be fine. And I know people that work as well that have disabilities. That is completely fine. We can also talk, Bruno. You can just drop me a message, and if you want to like move or anything, I can maybe recommend you a couple of companies that are definitely ready for all types of people.
Yeah, Bruno. So don't waste your time. Just click the link of Regina on the description below here, and send her a message on LinkedIn. So now I have a question here from Alvina. We didn't talk about cover letter, and this is a good one, because in Brazil we don't have cover letter. We just have the CV, and it's a pretty general one, as I was saying. So what do you think about cover letter and references? Are they necessary, or should be provided only upon request? Pretty good question.
So yes, very good question. I think the cover letter is a bit of the of a debate topic.
Can you just briefly explain what is the cover letter? I think there are many people here, they don't know what it is.
Cover letter, or like a motivational letter, where you just say, dear recruiter or hiring company, dear, I don't know the name of the company, dear Google, and then you just write why you want to work there. And usually you also mention how you how you become what you become, right? So you just talk a little bit about your journey, a little, not too much, right? So it should not be a long letter, right? So it should be like this, like half a page probably. And then you just mention why you want to be and why do you think they should hire you. For example, as I told you, like when I was applying for a gaming company, I would say, hey, I used to work in a gaming company, this, and I also used to do this work where I was testing exactly mobile games, Candy Crush, and blah, blah, blah. And then you put those names, and then it's already a bit more visual, you know, like for a person to read it. So there should be like a short explanation of how, like about you, maybe like a one line or something, and why do they need to hire you? What exactly special about you that there is like something that maybe you can say, oh, I actually, as my personal project, I built the entire crypto wallet or something, you know, like you, and then you can actually showcase that, right? You
Yeah.
can add the link or something. So there a bit of a debate about cover letter. I am okay with it. I read it. Some people really read it. Recruiters are usually for habit, so they like when people add motivational or cover letters, because then there is some motivation that they can check. Blah blah blah. Hiring managers do not care.
Yeah.
I don't know any hiring manager that would even read it once, because they say, I have no time for that. All the information that I need is in the CV,
It's
right?
in
So
the
that's it.
yeah.
So that's because we check different parts, right? Hiring managers are checking social skills, technical skills, the fit for the team, exactly knowing the tech stack, and we're checking the motivation, the social skills, and all those things. So that's why I think. So that is, if the company requires that, that's better to add. If they don't require, no. For references, quite a lot of companies require them, so that is better. That is good. Let's say you start a recruiting like a process with a company, and then you can already check with some people like, hey, can you be my reference? Someone from the previous company, ideally, because from the current company might be a bit, you know,
Yeah.
what if you didn't get the job and your manager is also not happy about that? Because usually what they require is one peer, so one another developer, let's say from your team or from the another team, and then one manager or person that managed you. So that would be good that you have those two people, or maybe even two peers and one manager. So just have them in case. Usually what is required is either phone number or email. If it's, let's say, a person that is in Brazil and I'm in Europe, probably email or WhatsApp. That might be a bit faster, you know, if there's time pressure. So those are the things, and usually it is required by some companies, but not everyone.
Yeah. Very good. So we have another one here about visas being sponsored. So why don't more companies sponsor visas? Is there a bureaucracy too big of a hassle? At least the cost is small. In this case, what are the alternatives? That's a good
So
question.
quite often, yeah. So quite often you can do that by yourself, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a contract, you might do it by yourself. I do not want to go to the legal details, but I know that we have a client that do not sponsor visas. It is a client here in Germany. They just don't do anything basically. But the person, if they have a contract, there was a developer, DevOps that we hired last year. He just got a contract, went to an embassy or whatever there was, the German embassy, and then he prepared. There's a list of documents that you need to apply. You just get all those documents, get the contract, and apply. And that should not be too much of money. I don't think it's very expensive. You just need to do certain steps. So you need to check country per country. US, very complicated. I'm not even talking about US. UK is also a bit more complicated. I think Europe is a bit easier in this way, especially Germany that has a blue card, right? So there are some very very good advantages connect to the blue card. So it's, yeah, to go there. So there are companies that do that. Bureaucracy, yes, maybe bureaucracy, that's the main reason. And also quite a lot of companies, they do not do that by themselves. They hire an agency, and those agencies are very expensive. to do that. So there's this, sometimes they don't do that. So that's normal. You need to check beforehand. I think quite a lot of times it's possible to do it by yourself. If you know anything, you can just leave a comment later, so we have it. I think that would be great, especially if you leave it to the YouTube video, not to live, because so other people can also see that later. That would be great. If you had any experience with that, please do.
All right. So there's a question here from Thales, and I've actually already had another comment here, Thales, just to have made it easier. I have about 14 years as a developer, mobile, backend, front, XP. My English isn't well. I froze in a talk with an abroad company, and I needed to integrate an app. May I have to try to get a broad job anyway? Well, Thales, what I would recommend you is, first of all, being okay with not having a very good English. If you can really try that, and you can keep working with your English and go improving it over time, that's the best way, right? You shouldn't be really afraid of working with people and speaking some words wrongly. I myself worked with some Finnish companies and some Indian people. They were connected to the same call. And well, it was really hard to understand everyone because their English weren't really good. So really give the best of yourself to get a better English. And a very good way to do that is through the course I've just sent the link here. It's inglesparadevs.com.br. It's an English course totally focused on programmers, okay? So you can not only learn many words and how to pronounce better and grammar structures that you should know, but also I give many tips of how to write your CV and how there are some samples, right? Some templates you can use. So that's a pretty good point to start. Okay, and you can also follow me on Instagram, and then we can talk a little bit if you want. Okay, and also, of course, if you want to go to Europe, please go to Regina's LinkedIn and send her a message. Okay, you want to say anything, Chitalis, Regina?
I think you said it pretty well, right? So it is the content that should matter more. If you feel like that they don't understand you, right? You try to speak, right? And then the content is good because you have very good experience, but they don't understand you. That's the moment where you can actually like, oh, I actually might need help, right? So then there is something with the teaching and everything, and then try to also listen to a lot of things. So this has helped me personally when I was trying to get my English better. I would listen to a lot of things. I would change my computer. Everything was in English. My phone was in English. And back then, I don't remember if I even had the smartphone. It was a long time ago. And then, I would watch a lot of movies or shows that would all in English. It was hard to understand. I would watch with the subtitles, but then you get into that, and then you get better and better. So that is also very good because then when you listen a lot, then you're not getting frozen, as you said, right? So you just don't freeze when it happens, because a lot of people are talking English because your mind is already ready, right? Because you are having podcasts, like listening to podcasts, watching some videos, some YouTubes, anything, right? So for example, now you're watching us now, and this is very helpful as well. And then you're also learning the intonation and the patterns, like, okay, this is the normal intonation, how the things go. And then it will help you also to get into the flow of English. And then you see spontaneous reactions, people are saying, aha, or people say, no, like the little reactions that you have, you can keep those things as well. And then they will also help you to grow and to improve your English. So I think you can totally do that, especially with this experience. There's no problem, Talis.
Yeah, that sounds good, actually. Last question here, guys. So if you send another question, I'm sorry, we want to be answering them. And we just had another one.
I see.
I just said another person. Okay, so we're going to have both of these and then no more questions, okay? Because our time is approaching to the end. Yeah. So next one here. Most of my work is all international and/or I can't show. Okay, I can show in my GitHub. how can I show the companies that I know my stuff when I can't show it to them? That's a great question. What I would do, I'm not looking for a job, so I don't have this page for myself. But what I would do is like, you don't really need to show the GitHub. You don't really need to show the code itself. Maybe some companies are really just, okay, so what is this person capable of doing? Or what he or she says that she or he is capable of doing. The assessment of to really understand if you are capable of doing that is going to go through the interview process in my point of view, right? If I'm wrong, Regina, please correct me. But what I would do is like a page with some screenshots and videos using some of the things you have already done, and of course that you can show. Maybe it's like you have like an NDA or something that you cannot show, that's all right. But if you can show some project and you don't want to share the GitHub, you could also do like a page with topics about every project you did, and maybe that's a good idea actually, to make a video showing that and explain that in English. That would be awesome. You know, okay, so this is the application I've done here for this company and stuff, and then you show. You don't really need to show the code if you don't want to, or if you can't.
Exactly.
I think it's a good one. What do you think, Regina?
Absolutely, you can just have a very good, like a good CV where you explain what exactly you did, right? And like you don't need to say too many details if the project is, you know, like you're not supposed to share the details, right? But you need to explain what exactly you did. Like, I implemented this from scratch. I grew our, like, I use numbers as well, right? So there was 0, and then I did to up to 100,
results,
something,
right?
whatever.
Focus on results.
Like, exactly. So, and then also, yeah, anything like those things, like which decisions you took, or what exactly you implemented, what part you were responsible for. And also, if you hired any people, then you can also say that you were involved in hiring. I think it's also a good thing, especially if you're senior engineer. That is sort of like a very, very good thing.
Cool. All right. So the last one is not a question. It was just a person thinking this. So I have around 6 years of an Android developer, and I'm trying to get an international job. Thanks. That life helped a lot. Very good. So, well, we did it just really to help you guys, right?
Yeah.
To be here and to really give some tips. Yeah, you want to say something, Regina?
Yes, Android developer. We have an open position with relocation to Sweden. Hit me on LinkedIn. I'm gonna help you out. Actually, if you want to relocate. Okay,
so send her a message now. Okay, go to LinkedIn, send her a message now, and say, okay, I was in the live, and you told me there is a position for me, and I'm going. Exactly. When can I buy the flight?
Yes, let's talk. Let's talk about that.
All right. Very good, guys. So, well, first of all, I'd like to thank Regina for being here, and thank you guys for being here on Saturday morning. Well, it's here in Brazil, it's almost lunchtime, and I think you guys are probably getting a little hungry. So, Regina, thank you very much for this time. Thank you very much for being here. I hope we can do this more often, right? And we could do this other times. And I would like also to give a special thanks to Fabio, right? I don't know if Fabio is still watching us. He was here in the beginning. He said, good morning, everybody. It's not even, almost not morning anymore. So, Fabio, thank you very much for joining us. Right, you were absolutely awesome in this moment.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Regina, any special thanks?
Special thanks to everyone actually that joined. To you, Vitor, we organized it very fast as well. I really love it. And then yeah, everyone just check out what Vitor is recommending. There's a course. There's this week of developers, right? If there's any way for me to participate, I would love to do that again, right? So if we can talk about it later. Everyone that joined and everyone that is going to watch this video after that, thank you so much. Do not shy away to reach me on LinkedIn if you have anything to say. I'm always open to new things. And as I promised you, opens, right? I can also do some posting of for people that are looking for a job right now. That would be, I think, very, very helpful for the community and just very good for everyone. So
For
reach me with
sure.
those ideas. I would be happy to help.
Okay, all right. And last but not least, again, don't forget our free event, the Semana Inglês para Devs, or English for Developers Week. It's approaching. It's going to be on March 13th to March 17th. It's really close. And it's totally free. You just go there and we're going to talk about how you, IT professional, can get your English better. And we're going to talk about a very specific methodology that me and Felipe, my brother, have developed through years and really help to you. It will really help you to learn English as fast as you can. Okay. So, Regina, once again, thank you very much. And
Thank you, guys.
see you. Bye bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye bye.